What's up, YouTube? Jeff, your Style O.G. And on today's video, we're going to discuss 10 red flags a woman isn't for you. If you're new to the channel, we release a new video every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern, discussing various men's lifestyle topics such as style, grooming, and dating. I invite you to subscribe, tap that notification bell, and join us. And to my returning friends like Malik Barnes, salute. Now, first off, let me tell you, you shouldn't be looking for perfection in a woman. It doesn't exist. Not in you and not in her. But there should be some red flags you're looking out for that might make you want to run for the hills. And that's what we're going to talk about on today's video. On today's video, I've got 10 red flags that if you see them, I want you to pay attention to them and make sure you're not with the wrong woman. So without any further delay, let's hop right into it. The first red flag I definitely want you to pay attention to is if when a woman is talking to you, does she use a lot of sarcasm? Is she condescending and patronizing? This is a huge red flag. Here's why. When someone uses a lot of sarcasm when they're talking to you, they probably have a level of disdain for you. They probably don't respect you a lot, especially intellectually. Huge red flag. I don't know about you, but a definite deal breaker for me is disrespect. And if a woman doesn't respect your opinion, if you guys can't communicate well, she doesn't respect you, and she's definitely going to have a hard time letting you lead. If a woman doesn't respect you intellectually and always is using sarcasm and biting comments, run for the hills. Another sign you definitely want to be on the lookout for is the woman you're dealing with emotionally needy. Here's the thing, an emotionally needy woman is an exhausting woman. She's going to wear you out. But now we all need a boost from time to time, but you can't constantly be trying to build up her self-esteem. An extremely insecure woman is going to wear you out. If she's constantly needing reassurance, day after day after day, you'll get tired of that very quickly. You just can't sustain it. As I said, a boost from time to time, some support, a shoulder to lean on, that's great. But it can't be 24 hours a day, every day. An overly insecure woman who's always needing validation, that's a sign she might not be for you. Now, next up is a red flag that my fellas that often find themselves in the friend zone often overlook. Is it hard for you to figure out, or do you find yourself guessing if she's interested in you? Let Uncle Jeff tell you a little secret. A woman that's interested in you, you're probably not going to have to guess. If you're constantly trying to figure out if she's interested in you in a romantic way, 99% of the time, she probably isn't. And you're wasting your time. You're just a friend. You're in the friend zone. That's probably all it's ever going to be. If a woman is interested in you, she'll flirt, she'll be receptive to your flirting and your advances. Don't spin your wheels guessing if she's interested. And I'm going to put some of this on you. If you're interested in dating her, ask her out on a date. That's going to cut down on all the confusion. But if you find yourself not knowing if a woman is interested, that's a big red flag. Now, next up is a red flag that happens to be a pet peeve of mine, and I want you to be on the lookout for it. Is she rude to strangers? I'm talking especially like waiters, bartenders, valet guys. Huge red flag. A person who's rude to these type of people oftentimes has bullying tendencies. This isn't a kind, compassionate person. You want to date someone like that? So this is one of the things I suggest you be on the lookout for when you first start dating. Is she rude to the waiter? Does it seem she looks down on people that are serving her? Huge red flag. Want a woman who's kind, compassionate, and not a bully. A person who's rude to service staff, they're probably not the right one for you. Next up is a sign you definitely should be running for the hills. When you're having conversations about men, does she take the stance that all men are jerks? Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of jerks out there, but not all of us. And you have to ask yourself, if all the men she's run into or dated are jerks, what's the common denominator? Her. Problem is probably her, not all men. Now, you should expect her to have some good dating experiences and some bad ones, maybe even some horror stories. We all do. But please be on the lookout once the woman takes a stance that all men are jerks. If all men are jerks, what does that make you? Now, next up is a red flag we have to pay more attention to during our modern times. You do not want a woman who's obsessed with social media. Now, social media in of itself is not a bad thing, but if the woman you're involved with is obsessed with it, she's probably often seeking validation, outside validation. She's constantly checking how many likes she got on her last Instagram post. Be careful. This is a kissing cousin to our earlier problem, the woman who's emotionally needy. A woman who's seeking outside validation from strangers all the time, i.e. social media, not a good look. In fact, I would generalize and say the less a woman is into social media, the more secure she probably is. In our modern times, a red flag you definitely have to pay attention to is the woman obsessed with social media. Next up is a red flag that might have a little bit of a gray area, but I think it's important to pay attention to. Be careful if you're dealing with a woman who never talks about her past at all. Now, here's the thing. You don't want a woman who's wallowing or mired in her past. That's not a good sign either. But she should be able to talk to you about her past. Good experiences, bad experiences, and those in the middle. These experiences have informed the person she's become today. You want to kind of have a full picture as you're getting to know her. But here's where the gray areas come in. You don't want a woman who's always talking about her past, especially the woman that's bashing her ex-boyfriend. Although we shouldn't live in the past, we all can learn from it. And you can learn a little bit about this woman by learning about her past. Now, next up is a huge red flag in my opinion. You want to run for the hills if a woman you're dealing with never takes accountability. Now, here's the thing, especially as you get to know someone, sometimes you're going to have some conflict. But newsflash, it isn't always your fault. In the relationship, you're going to mess up, and so is she. Is she never wrong? Does she never apologize? Is she constantly shifting all the blame onto you? This is a huge warning sign. An evolved, mature person, whether a woman or a man, knows when they're at fault, and they don't have a problem acknowledging it and taking accountability. A woman who lacks the ability to take accountability is going to be a huge problem. A person who doesn't take accountability can't evolve, can't grow. So please don't speed past the sign that she lacks accountability. Which leads very nicely into our next potential red flag. Are you dealing with a woman who lacks flexibility? This can be a huge problem. In life, you're not always going to have the answers. We all need to have the ability to assess a situation and adapt. Can she do that? And on top of that, is she a my way or the highway type of woman? Huge problem. You're not always going to have all the answers, and neither is she. She has to be flexible in her life, and especially within the confines of a relationship. There's nothing more frustrating than dealing with a know-it-all, a super stubborn person. She has to have the ability to adapt and take in different perspectives, especially yours. If you want to know if you might run into potential problems down the line with this woman, does she lack flexibility? Now, next up is a red flag I definitely want to warn you about, and you need to pay attention to this one. Does the woman you're dealing with expect to be treated like a princess? And the key word being expect. You don't want to deal with a woman who has a sense of entitlement. Now, hear me out. Yes, she should expect you to treat her like a gentleman. She should expect you to be kind, compassionate, and generous when you choose to be. Run for the hills if you're dealing with a woman who expects to be treated like a princess just because she's a woman. I wholeheartedly believe in treating a woman well, especially a woman you're interested in. But it makes it a lot easier when she doesn't expect it. She doesn't feel entitled to it. If she feels entitled to you putting her on a pedestal, guess what? She'll be consistently and constantly looking down on you. Treat her well because you want to. Be a gentleman because that's the type of man you are. But don't do it because she expects to be treated like a princess. In my book, that's a huge red flag. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, no woman is perfect. In fact, if a woman you're dealing with has one or two of the red flags we discussed today, I wouldn't disqualify her as a potential mate. However, if you start noticing 3, 4, or more signs that we talked about today, my brother, you might want to run for the hills. Now, as always, I'd love to have your input. Let me know in the comments section. You agree or disagree with my red flags? Or do you have some red flags I might have left out? Let us know.